Ooh-wee. All right, people. Exhaust wrap. What is it? Why do people use it? And how does it work? Well, those are all things that I'm going to answer today. So we're going to be wrapping the exhaust on our motorcycle here. I got one roll of this. It's 50 foot. It's 2 inches wide. And this was $14 on Amazon. The link to our exact one is in the video description below. Comes with the steel zip ties and everything you need. So why do people do this? Well, so no doubt, I'm sure you've seen this on motorcycles before, and it could have even been in wild, vibrant colors. So there certainly is an aesthetic, a cosmetic factor to why people do this. Sometimes it can look cool, and we all do things to look cool.
Are you in loser denial or something?
But outside of that, there's a couple other reasons, a couple other perks and benefits to exhaust wrap. So this is going to function as an insulator as well as a heat shield. So by wrapping our exhaust, I'm going to feel less heat coming from those pipes. I'll feel less heat on my leg. The motorcycle itself will seemingly be putting off less heat, making the air that our airbox takes in colder, increasing power that way. But then the insulating effect that this has, so if we wrap this whole exhaust with this exhaust wrap, it's going to keep the gases inside the exhaust that's flowing through these pipes hotter. Now, when your exhaust gases are hotter, they are less dense, and so they will flow faster, thus improving combustion and efficiency. So you will gain horsepower and torque from that aspect of it as well. Now, there's going to be several different kinds of exhaust wrap. Of course, you could get any color of the rainbow. I just have black here since our motorcycle is kind of just chrome and black, but there's going to be different widths of exhaust wrap as well. And depending on what you're working on, if you're working on stuff that's just really windy and twisty and has a ton of curves and bends, turns in it, you may want a skinnier exhaust wrap for something like that. For the motorcycle that we're working on today, you know, my pipes are just pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of curves, there's not a lot of bends, there's just kind of one angle in them, but otherwise it's fairly straight. So that's why we're going to be using the 2-inch exhaust wrap today. And you'll always have to do some calculations, right, to know how much of this stuff you'll need. So depending on how much you want to overlap it as you're going down the pipes, you know, for every inch of pipe that you cover, by the time you wrap it around and you overlap it, you could be using 6 inches of exhaust wrap just to cover 1 inch of pipe. So I'll try and answer those questions today. Like I said, I have a 50-foot roll, and I've got 2 pipes here. One is going to be about 18 inches. We're going to wrap it. And then the other one is going to be about 2 feet or so, or just over that. So for about 3.5 foot of exhaust pipe total, I'll let you know at the end how much we have left over. I think we'll for sure have enough to be able to do both of these pipes, I hope. So let's just rip into it. Let's get this job done. I'm going to show it start to finish and every tool, anything you might need in that process. And then you can decide if this is a $14 mod that you would like to do to your vehicle. So let's rip into it. And my name's Micah. Welcome to the channel. Okie dokie. So I've got my whole station set up here. I put kind of just a canvas down on the ground. So as I'm wrapping this, if I ever set that fiberglass wrap on the ground, you know, I don't want it to get a bunch of dead leaves or little sticks or anything stuck to it that when I'm wrapping it, you know, those would surely probably catch fire. So that'll keep everything clean. Outside of that, I just have the exhaust wrap, the steel zip ties that it came with. I've got rubber gloves. You're absolutely going to want to use rubber gloves, minimum at least rubber gloves. You don't want this stuff touching your hands. That fiberglass will tear them up. Outside of that, wear long pants, wear a long sleeve, kind of like a heavy duty shirt almost. And after we're done, we are going to shake out our clothes. We're going to brush them off. We're going to blow them off, you know, with an air compressor. That fiberglass kind of gets locked in there and you don't want to be carrying that over through the washer to your other clothes. I do have some utility gloves as well if we need something heavier duty than the rubber ones. A needle nose or a pliers is going to be key for this. I've got a scissors so I can cut the wrap to the exact size I need once we get it all wrapped and finished as we're closing up. So I guess first thing, we'll get a couple gloves out here and we'll get suited up.
we're ready.
And then your box of exhaust wrap, it is gonna come with instructions in case you had any questions outside of what you see us do today. Your answers will all be there. So you'll never be out of luck if you get this exact stuff that we did. And so then right off the bat, as we look at our roll, it's got 2 staples in it there. So I'm just gonna, I think I can probably just pull it up with my hand here. So those staples pulled right out. Well, and another good precautionary measure, to wear like a paper face mask, a cloth mask, you know, you don't wanna breathe in any of these pieces of fiberglass that'll be floating around. It's not a windy day, and I've done this before. I'm not gonna get crazy with it. So just so I can talk to you and you can understand me clearly, I am foregoing the mask. If I were you, just put one on. So what I'm gonna do here, you know, right when we pulled the piece off, you can see that the end is just a little bit frayed, you know, and we have our staples in there. So I'm just gonna take my scissors and I'm just gonna cut off that inch or so. So kind of our frayed, rough end is gone, and now we have a clean, straight end to start with. Well, so I better bring you over this way here so you have a front row seat. How does that look? Do you like that? All right, so in your package of steel cable zip ties, you're gonna have 6 of them. I'm gonna take one of them out for now. And the way that we're gonna do this, so I'm gonna put one up at the start of the header, and then once we get to the end of the header, I'll put 2 there. All right, well, you know what? We're just gonna be limited by the amount of space that we have here, so I am gonna need to unroll about half of this roll for the first pipe. All right, so now we have just a pile of loose exhaust wrap. All right, let me think which way I want to wrap this. Like which way I wanna have to feed all the wrap. I think I wanna be wrapping down over the back side, so I'm just gonna slide all this through right there. Kind of just keep it in a bunch for now so I don't have to just pull and string it all through. Well, and I'll just give it 2 wraps right off the bat. Hey, there we go. All right, we'll kind of get this up around here. Now, I always kind of want to have my seams and stuff be invisible. It's just gonna make this look and turn out the best. And our first wrap around, you can just do the wrap. You don't have to overlap on your first time around. We want that first time around to just be tight as we can get it. Now you're gonna wish that you were an octopus for this task, and you're not. It's okay, neither am I, but we'll get it done. So then I'll slightly wrap this over. I'll just barely start my overlap. Keep in mind, I have not put a tie on it, one of those cable ties yet. I want to get at least about 1 overlap before I worry about that. So now I can thread in my zip tie. There it is, okay. We'll grab it with those fingers, slide that in there. It went in perfectly, nestled up there nice and tight.
What did you just say to me?
Yeah, a scissors will cut those steel zip ties, no problem. Well, that's good to know. So that is my little end there of that zip tie. So what I'm gonna do to that is with a needle nose, just gonna grab the end of that, I'm gonna start twisting it. It's gonna make it tight.
He was very vigorous, Father.
And then I'll bend this. I'm gonna cut that shorter at the very end, and then I'll bend that down so that it's not sharp. You know, I don't wanna ever catch my hand on that. So now we kind of get to the mindless part of wrapping this. It's not completely mindless because you want this all to look very good and even. Now, the key to making this all look very, very good is gonna be your overlap. If you can make your overlap exactly the same as you wrap this and go down the pipe. You don't want part of it to be a skinnier overlap and then part of it to be a fatter overlap. So for this 2-inch wide exhaust wrap, I'm gonna aim for maybe around a 1/2 inch overlap, I think is my initial thought here. So let me get a couple wraps going here and we'll kind of start to see what that looks like. Oh, and now it'll get to a little bit more of a tricky part here because we're getting to where those 2 pipes kind of pinch together. So if our wrap's gonna end right here, that's about exactly what I wanted. You know, maybe 4 inches from the start of the outlet. What I'll do is, where's my scissors? I'm gonna cut this off so it's on the back side. Still holding it with one hand, so with my other hand, get one of my steel ties out. Let's see which way. I'll thread it in this way and kind of feed it through with my hand that's already behind there. Okay, and so we'll just put 2 of these cables then on the finishing part here. Slid a little bit, so I'll kind of turn it back so it's nice and tight. That's one thing you'll want to do as well, is kind of turn that wrap back so it's nice and woven tight. That's one tie. Let me get another tie. I'm digging that. It's about in the same spot as the other one. Cut them off here, leave a 1/2 inch or so. Just get it reasonably tight, because once this exhaust heats up, it's gonna kind of petrify this in the place that it's at. Well, let me pull my gloves off and I'll give you a close look at our first header. But then our whole wrap there, you can see that I just aimed for that 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch overlap there. And you just get it the best you can within your ability. And then sometimes when you get to those tight spots, you'll see that it's still the 1/2 inch to 3/4. Of course, on the back side there, you know, it'll be a little bit tighter. But man, that is our wrapped header there. Not too shabby, guys. So I guess now that you've seen the first one, for the second one, I'm just gonna slave away. All right, I think we're done with the exhaust wrap job. Well, at least we've got it on. Now the break-in period will commence. So then there is going to be the finished product on our second header. You can see the overlapping relative to the first pipe that we did. I tried to get it just exactly the same spacing. But yeah, everything went on very, very well. It's just a long, tedious process. And then you can see I put my 2 steel zip ties on there. We've got I might even try and pinch those together a little bit so the spacing is absolutely the same. Well, and I was thinking like, oh, I got 50 feet of exhaust wrap, you know, and the headers that I have like 3.5 feet of pipe to wrap. I'll have so much extra. Well, let's see how much extra we have. 7 foot. 45 feet is minimum what you need to wrap about 3.5 foot of exhaust. And if your spacing was more than what we did, you know, you could stretch that further. But gosh, I mean, after looking at this, you can be the judge if you would want to space that out any further. I think that 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch overlap for the 2 inch wide exhaust wrap anyways is going to be exactly what you want. So let me clean up our area here and then we'll start the beast, and these things are gonna smoke. Oh, we haven't started this today. A little choke might be necessary. And now we wait. Everything just stopped smoking, so I'll give you a final look at kind of how that color changed. So looking at the pipes there, you can see that it's just a little bit lighter. It's not the black that we started with. It is almost more that charcoal gray, you know, in spots. A little bit lighter there, a little bit lighter towards the end. Right up at the front header there, it seems a little bit lighter than the rest of it. It looks good, and it will always look good if you do the black, the gray, or the white. It's just those colors that will really get you and start to look kind of mismatched and uneven. Well, and even in my heavy-duty Carhartt long-sleeve t-shirt, I just feel itchy and prickly everywhere. I can just tell that that fiberglass is all over me. So I am going to change clothes, try and clean out these clothes, and then we'll finish up. Ooh-wee! All right, so that all turned out fantastic. As far as how long it took me, I probably at least an hour, but less than 2 hours. It's a meticulous job, and you've got to take your time in order for this to turn out good. And ours certainly did. I mean, just staring at it here, a foot away from it, all of our spacing is just perfectly even. Apparently somebody wants to mow their lawn right now, so I'll try and be quick. But yeah, that exhaust wrap job, you know, it's not something I do very often. It's just sometimes you'll find a vehicle, you'll find a project where you're like, that could be kind of useful. Now, don't just go put an exhaust wrap on anything. It's not necessarily gonna look good on everything. But that's all I have for you guys today, I think. So like the video if this helped you out today. Subscribe if you want to see more, and until next time.